So I'm back doing a little bit more work on this thing before we go hunting. Been driving it around a fair bit the last few days, fiddling around with stuff, and I noticed a rattle when it's moving. And I've been able to isolate that rattle. So get some light on it. To the front drive shaft, or the prop shaft as they call it. And let's see if we can do it. The universal joints are pretty much past it. But something I'm concerned about is on the back end, there's a slip yoke, and it's pretty sloppy on that spline coming out of the gearbox, or out of the transmission. So I'm not sure which side's worn. I'm hoping it's that it's the end of the prop shaft, because that's only $120. I don't want to know what building that transmission up is. Replacement shaft is $350-ish, but the ball joints are fairly cheap. Universal joints are fairly cheap, so they're supposed to be here in the mail today, along with my little bushings for the front end. So we're going to try to figure out if there's a way to take this thing apart without dropping the belly pan, because I really don't want to do that. From what I can tell, up here on the front, there's a roll pin, like a spring-loaded roll pin right there, that if you push through, should release this from this front diff. Then you should be able to push this back, and it should just fall off. But again, I don't know. I'm sure you can get it disconnected, but I don't know if you can get it out without taking the pan off. Maybe I only have to take the front section off and it'll come out through the bottom. That's kind of what I'm hoping. But anyway, that's what we're about to try to set up and do, is clean this up as best we can, knock that roll pin out, see if we can get this prop shaft out of here. So having cleaned it up, that side looks pretty good. That side kind of looks peened flat, so that's probably the side that it was installed from originally. So we're going to try to back it out so as to have less material to shave off, and see what happens. And take my time on this. It's not going to be easy to see, but once I get it started, hopefully with a decent punch, it'll start. If it just starts moving, then we'll be in good shape. Alright, you can see we've got it moving. It's coming out pretty good. But one thing I've learned fairly quickly over the last few days of working on this is these things are not intended to come apart with only light pressure. I tried doing that with a little punch and a hammer, and that didn't work. So got my punch, which happened to be exactly the right size, and then I hit that sucker with the impact chisel, and that was able to break it loose really nicely. I just kind of ground a flat on the end so I could use this on the chisel. You can see the marks it made on the chisel, or the punch, but that punched it right out of there with great aplomb. Now I can get a little bit smaller punch and probably knock it out with just a regular hammer at this point. So that's my recommendation for that. These things here need some brute force, so I'm hoping that this comes off the rest of the way. If not, that's going in there like that, and that's how it's coming off after this pin comes out. So pin removal is next. All right, there she is, Fairly interesting roll pin. It's not a split pin, it's actually a roll, like a jelly roll in there. You can see it's got a whole bunch of metal in there. That's pretty stout. I was expecting just a standard split pin, but that's not at all. So now we're going to put that aside and see if we can just pop that off. No. She's moving a little bit. Getting there. So let's see. And there she is. Those splines look pretty good. Okay, it does not seem to have enough room to go up and out, or down and out, or just straight out. So at a minimum, I'm going to have to pull the plate off underneath this differential. But anyway, I'm just happy that... Oh, that's the lock. Interesting. Yeah, that spins freely because it's locked. It's just in two-wheel drive right now. So that's kind of cool. That'll make it a lot easier to line up when we're done, that's for sure. That's kind of nice. You won't have to worry about rolling the whole thing and lining everything up. You can just turn the pinion. So very cool. Anyway, let's see. So now I'm going to try to get under it and figure out what we got to pull off of this thing. We got it disconnected from the rear, which really wasn't too bad, just pushed it forward. But it appears that the only way to get this out is to pull the bumper off and then disconnect the plate that the front diff is mounted on. I hope. And then maybe the front diff can move forward a little bit and up, and that thing can go out kind of underneath it. That's kind of what it looks like. So you got these bolts, take this whole winch bumper off, and then this plate with these 4 bolts on it, I believe will come off, and that's what the diff is mounted to. And this is not a cross brace, this is actually open under here, and that's right where my front of the prop shaft is. So I'm hoping that pull this off, the diff might be able to be ratcheted up a little bit, and then that this can come out forwards this way. We will see, but the whole bumper's got to come off first. So that just looks to be all of that. And I think the winch will go with it if I disconnect the electrics. So we're going to pull the hood off first, because that's just kind of getting in the way right now. The hood's fairly simple. Just pull these little pins on each side, disconnect your electrics, pop the clips off for the lights, and then it falls off. So the hood's pretty simple, but that's the first thing. All right, got the front end off, got the wires draped up over that. This is just where the hood pins mount. Now I got these pried back. Those are stout. I'm gonna go, it looks like a 10mm. Pop those connectors off so the wires cut that tie wrap. And then the wires will stay with the bike and not go with the bumper. It does look like there are a couple of bolts back there for the bumper as well, behind the radiator on each side. And actually it may just be, looking at that, those 3 across the bottom and those 4 at the top, and then the whole bumper falls off. So that may not be too bad. But we're going to disconnect these wires, cut the tie wrap, and then pull those bolts, see what happens. Alright, so that's all she wrote there. It was just the 3 bolts on the bottom. and those 4 on the sides. They all came out pretty good. And you can see the continued attack of the Mississippi mud. We'll clean that off once we get this out of here. And like I said, I kinda, man, seems weird that that's not a weldment. You would think it'd have to be. I wonder if at this point, because if I can get it up over the diff, kind of through here, I could pull the radiator pretty easily. That's only a couple of bolts, and then go straight out the front with it. I'm not 100% sure on this one. I can't believe that diff bracket has to be a weldment. There's no way that that's something that comes out the bottom, because otherwise there'd be nothing holding the damn diff in. So that doesn't make any sense. So that can't come off. So we're going to try to finagle that shaft up and through that area. I'm not sure how successful we're going to be, but if it can pop up and over that diff and underneath the steering, we may be able to get it out the front. So that's what we're going to try now. Alright, so now the diff is loose. And I'm not sure what that's going to amount to. I'm going to try to push it back in. It has to come up enough to allow. Ooh, so close. So close. Okay, maybe if I slide the prop shaft over to the driver's side and the back. Of course, with my luck, it's already over there. It don't seem to be, so give it a little better angle. Kind of bumping on a cross member right there. This might work, but the diff has to move over to the passenger side a bit. I'm not sure. I think it's impinging on the steering. So I don't need 2 hands for this, but we're going to see if I can pull that diff over to the passenger side and see what we got. So that can happen, for what it's worth. To get that out, you just need to blow one side apart, pop both of the nuts off for the splines, take the 4 bolts out, and move the radiator, and you can squeak that whole assembly out of it, just like that. And I guess now I can clean under it if I want to, but it's not that bad. So now, the prop shaft can come out. I don't know if that's actually the procedure, but I don't see any other good way of doing it without cutting holes in things that are welded, so it is what it is. But there's your $400 prop shaft, and now I'm going to do some inspection, because I did not like the look of the splines on the pinion on the rear end. I was disappointed when that came apart. I don't know if I'm going to be able to just change this and make everything better, because unfortunately this looks like it may be good, which is disappointing. But that's out. It's two-wheel drive only now, which again, I can drive it like that. It isn't a big deal. You just have two-wheel, rear, open and then rear lock, which is probably going to be fine for what we need. But since these are coming in, she'll be in good shape when we go. But now I'm going to do a little bit of inspection on that pinion in the back, because I didn't like the looks of that, and that may be entertaining. Alright, so I'm a little disappointed because when I clean everything up here and put this together, it's a little sloppy. Put the correct one on it. It's not sloppy. What I think I'm going to do is it's really hard to tell. I'm going to stick this thing in backwards, try to get this piece on the other spline to see how snug it is, and if it's fairly snug on the other spline, maybe I only need to replace this dongle end of it, which would be nice, but even that's 120 bucks. But if they're both sloppy, I may, it depends on how different that one may be. So we're going to stick this back in right now and test it on the back. Okay, actually that makes me a little happier. And that's pretty snug. So the outer piece is worn out. I'm going to call around and see if I can find one of those, because I'd really hate to do this twice. All right, well, I may have found a replacement, one of these, up in Vicksburg. I'm waiting on a call back from their parts guy to see if they might have it. If that's the case, I'll run up there tomorrow, first thing, grab that so I can get this back together once, rather than having to take this whole monster apart again and replace that a second time. But now I'm debating, since I'm waiting for the mail, which is supposed to have my U-joints in it, I'm debating as to whether to blow that drive shaft apart or wait for the mail to show up to confirm that the U-joints that I ordered are the right ones. Because if they are not, and I blow this apart, I don't have any good way to fix it in the time frame that I need, because this thing needs to be on my truck Friday, and it is now Tuesday. So I think I'm going to get my ball joint press and the torch ready so that I'm ready to go as soon as the U-joints get here, but I don't think I'm going to take this apart until the universal joints come in.